Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Ivory. This is Roz. And our topic today is exit points. First, we'd like to say hello to our listeners in Malmo, Sweden. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the support of the show. You listening, or mostly listening, few people actually watch it on YouTube, but those of you listening, you are supporting the show, and we appreciate it very much. Exit points. Oh my goodness. So let's just start with saying the timing of a person's death can be great mystery. And I know Roz and I both do mediumship. And so I know for myself, a lot of people will say, did my husband pass when he was supposed to? Did my son pass at a time? Was it an untimely death? This is really getting at that issue. So why is it that some people have a slight illness and pass away, and others endure these horrific health issues for many years? Don't you think it's odd that some people get struck down in their prime while others live a long life? Well, we all have exit points along the way, and that's when our soul or spirit can choose to opt out or choose to stay in. And we don't always see these exit points. Some are more obvious than others: a near fatal car accident, a life-threatening illness. But these opportunities are presented so you can begin something new on a new plane of existence. And sometimes I think it's just if you've had enough. There's a lot of people right now who have just flat out had enough and they are going. And I brought this up a couple shows back in 92. I was studying with my first spiritual teacher, Belinda Howe, and she told me there will come a time when many people will be opting out. They'll just be choosing to die. And she told me about exit points. And we're in that time now. We're in that time. And so a lot of people are choosing. What's your thoughts on this whole exit point topic, Roz?
I'm a great believer in the fact that some things are destiny and some things are what we choose and we allow. And I sort of fully believe that when it comes to these exit point periods in our lives, I do think some people are destined to be here for a very finite amount of time. And when they've completed whatever they what their purpose was, what they were sent here to do, they leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other people, it's about what they make up their mind that they are going to work on overcoming, and their inner strength and their connection, with their guidance, creator. Sometimes situations have been agreed upon, and that's more in the alignment of the destiny situation. But I think for most people, it really comes down to how we decide we are going to control our health, our focus, our energy, etc. And these options, like if we're particularly unhappy or at a very low energy point, and we've just had it. I've had people tell me, I'm over it here. I'm just over it. I'm ready to go. I think when that's what you're choosing and allowing, it definitely presents itself as an option. I
think so too.
have had, when I was young, I had a very strong sense that at an age of like my late 40s, early to late 40s, I was going to have a situation arise where I would be able to choose to leave. And I knew that. But I also knew that if I felt very responsible, which I've always felt very responsible, that's kind of part of my, inner working. And I knew that if I felt like I couldn't leave because I needed to be taking care of people or things or animals or whatever it was, I would not want to go. And that's exactly what happened. And when that time came, my children were very young, very small. I mean, they just didn't need to be without their mama. And so I was willing to fight to come back and to get my medical situation managed. But I think we all have those options, and we have to really review how we need to address them.
I think when most people, especially, you have a good number of years behind you in life, you can look back and think of times when you could have been killed, or when you were in so much pain, you didn't think you wanted to go on, and then you rallied. There's all these points when you really look back where I think you could have opted out. And I can think of two for myself for sure. One would have been during that last relationship I had with a guy who was just really dark, and my whole spirit and physical self was beaten down, and I really didn't want to go on anymore. And it took several people talking to me to get me to decide to stay. And my body, my organs were shutting down. It wasn't just I want to die. It was my organs were shutting down and I was going to die. So that was one point. And another one was, Roz, you knew me, like when I lived in the house that had the demonic entity attached to the land. And I was in so much pain, and it was just one thing after another, day after day after day, where I just truly thought I was going to die. And the shaman who was helping me at the time came back and said, if we don't get you out of there, you're not going to survive this. And that was a time when I felt like I could have just sunk down into that and died, but there was a lot of intervention, and the shaman and the medicine woman and another friend doing energy work and me doing everything I could. Obviously I survived because here I am. I'm not a hologram, though. I guess it might look like it hovering high over the Red Rocks, but but I look back on that and I think that was a definite exit point where if I didn't get strong, if I didn't find a way to get out of that house and step into some strength and start healing, I would be gone.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And as it so happens, I mean, I end up working with a lot of people who have developed, or an attachment has developed on them, but they have developed a situation where they are bombarded constantly by negative energy. And on a daily basis, that really saps your energy and your will to go on. And so I hear a lot of people talking about sometimes, they are frustrated with a friend or a family member who has kind of reached the point of giving up. They just don't want to go on. And my opinion of that is always, it's really best if we can find it within ourselves, not to judge, not to pass judgment. Because when you are in a situation where you are constantly under attack from dark, low frequency beings and entities, and it just can be overwhelming. And you really do have to remove yourself from that situation. And sadly, sometimes if a very strong attachment has formed by this negative entity presence in your life, it's pretty hard to get out of that. It's pretty hard to cut that energy.
It can follow you. It can follow people to their next place. So,
absolutely,
you got to make a decision to live and then make changes to get stronger. And I'm glad you brought up the topic of suicide, because that's something, I thought, okay, well, how does that fit in with exit points? And I think it totally fits in, because while the human being may want to pass away, like you're depressed, you're thinking suicidal thoughts, your soul or your spirit can endure a great deal before it releases that breath of life. And so the human being may wish to live, but when the soul spirit knows it's completed all it's come here to do, it's ready to return to home. The afterlife, that's home. This isn't home. This is like a immersive learning vacation. I don't know. I can't really call it a vacation because it doesn't feel like a vacation most of the
I
time.
don't think I'd call it a
Immersive
vacation.
learning experience. That's a better
Yes.
way to put it. Oh, if this is a vacation, I want my money back immediately. But so do we have a choice in the matter? So yes, we do. We always have a choice in the matter, but there's a lot of spirit. Like I know in my work, I've dealt with spirit who, let's say children who passed at a young age, and the parents are just devastated. And one of the things the spirit of that child will sometimes say is, I knew I was only going to live to 4 or 5 years old, whatever the age may be. And I did what I came to do, and it was my time to return. And that usually gives the parents peace to hear that from their child, because they feel like they were robbed, and yet the child feels like they knew exactly what was going to happen. And I hear that actually things like that quite a lot in mediumship. So I think that we can't really guess. Well, none of us will ever know everything. Maybe when we're ascended masters, after we've lived enough lifetimes, I don't think everybody becomes an ascended master, but those who become an ascended master will come the closest to understanding all the mysteries of the universe and the afterlife and all the connectivity. But we're just doing our best to figure it out, and especially a human lifetime is a blip. You could live to be 100 years old and it's a blip in time. So, we're asking a lot for that little blip in time lifetime to figure out all these mysteries that have been around for eons. So we're trying to figure it out. So what if you think of it like a living reincarnation? You don't take the exit point and you decide to continue, but you're going to change direction.
Now that really presents itself as a very viable approach to the situation if you decide within yourself that and you're given the option to remain, but you have to, as you said, make changes. You have to adjust. And the most common situation with this, of course, is when people encounter a medical, they have developed a medical condition that requires huge lifestyle changes in order for them to move forward and remain here. And I think for a lot of people, that's a pretty life altering, mindset to get themselves either in or out of. I heard of someone recently through a friend, actually, and this was a few years back, who required treatment on a weekly basis for her medical condition. And she did it for a few years. And then she didn't really have any extended family to be concerned with or to want to remain for. And she just kind of reached this point where she didn't want to do that anymore. She didn't want to make that effort anymore. She did not like that treatment. She didn't want to have to experience it on a regular basis. And she just chose to stop all treatment.
It's pretty common. I mean, there's plenty of people who find out they have cancer and choose not to do chemotherapy. And,
Right.
They might try some alternative things, but even if it's not working, they don't want to do chemotherapy and radiation. And that's a choice, but it is sort of taking an exit point. And I don't look down on people either. I don't have any judgment about this, because I feel like everything you do in life is such a personal choice. It's you do what you feel you need to do for yourself. And to me, how a person passes is about the most personal thing you can approach. Like, we don't have the right to tell another person when they've had enough or haven't had enough or can't handle pain anymore,
Yeah,
or whether it's mental, emotional, physical. We don't live in them. And so I am a proponent of letting people choose how they pass.
absolutely.
I know, I know there's no judgment on the other side about suicide even. And I know this is a really like kind of controversial here. I'm sorry, but I can only tell you like how many times people have come to me for a reading. Their loved one committed suicide, and they're on the other side. They're with the angels. They're with all their loved ones who passed naturally. So it's impossible that they are sent to a lower place, a lesser place, condemned in some way. So that's changed. I was raised Catholic, so this is a big, turnaround from how I was raised, but I think they're taking an exit point. So here's a couple stories I found. This person said that their brother-in-law, who was very dear to them, had recently lost a loved one to a long-term cancer. And after the sister-in-law's passing, their brother declared he couldn't live without his wife. He kept saying it over and over again. And they took a workshop together called the Sedona method, interestingly. This gave this guy an opportunity to look at life and what his life was going to be in a new way. And then he was able to say, I don't like it going on without her, but I'm going to find a way to live without her, which is a huge turning point for anybody. I spend a lot of my days trying to help people get to that point. So right after that trip, he took another one and ended up getting a bad chest cold while he was there. And when he got in to see the doctor, he was told fluid was building up in his lungs. It wasn't pneumonia, just the fluid. I thought the presence of fluid was pneumonia. And so this person believes that if he hadn't shifted his thinking, that pneumonia could have taken hold more easily and he could have died. It was an exit point. And since that time, he's been doing a lot of shifting, and he's not the same person he was 6 months ago. None of us are. It's impossible to be the same person you were before. So, we have to let go of that. And many times it is like, I don't think it's much different if you go through a cantankerous divorce that you didn't want and left you feeling empty, you don't know how to go on. It's very much like losing your partner and figuring out how to go on without them, or a boyfriend, girlfriend, long-term boyfriend, girlfriend break up, and you have to figure out. You lose a child. Now you have to figure out how to go forward. Roz and I have a very dear soul sister who's still working her way forward. How many years? Has it been 5 years now?
I think so.
And we were there the day she found out, and it's been really rough, but she has figured out how to like build a relationship with him from the other side, and write books about him and with him, and it's beautiful to see when somebody is moving forward and really blooming, really figuring it out, and it's a process. So here's another story. This person said they experienced the exit point themselves, and it wasn't about an accident, or they didn't get ill, but it was powerfully life-changing for them. They were resting and they realized they weren't breathing. That's a scary realization. And they weren't afraid, and they didn't feel the need to draw a breath. And it was very peaceful, and they don't think it was just apnea, because it was different than that. And they had a vision of their husband, their pets, their grandchildren, and a voice said to them, are you willing to live for them? And she thought about her husband, about how much he loves her and how much she loves him, and thought about their grandchildren and the pets, how much she loved them. And now she's not sure how much was conscious thought or just an acknowledgement of this idea, but it didn't seem to be an active consideration, but just an awareness of a loving connection with her husband, grandchildren, and pets. And she said, yes, I am willing. And the voice said, then breathe deeply. And she sucked in a deep breath and went back into a deep sleep. Sometime later, she awoke to realize again she wasn't breathing again. And she still felt wrapped in this peaceful state of being. And she was shown her church, and the voice said, are you willing to live for these? And this time she found herself thinking about the love, and she said, yes, I am. The voice said, then breathe deeply. She did, fell back into a deep sleep. She doesn't know how much time passed. She was awakened again to know that the breath of life was still within her, though she wasn't breathing at that moment, like the world was suspended, and she still felt a lot of peace. And a voice again asked if she was willing to live for a specific purpose. She can't remember what they asked, and she recalls feeling like a sense of anticipation, and again, she agreed to live. Then the voice revealed there would be challenges with this new life and asked, are you willing to accept these challenges along with this new purpose? Yes, I am. Then breathe deeply. And as they breathed, they could feel the normal rhythm of life's breath return, and they drifted off, had a peaceful sleep. And sometimes she comes to this point where she feels like she had this experience so she could share it with others, and just the understanding of who we are spiritually and about exit points. But when she woke again, she felt perfectly fine. And the only thing she couldn't remember was the third request they asked if she would live for. But she figures that her higher self knows, and she'll figure it out. But she believes she was offered an exit point, and the choice to stay was honored. So I hope this topic really gets people out there thinking about their lives in a different way. And I know a lot of you, just based on how many people listen to the show, a lot of you are probably going through something right now that might actually be an exit point.
And even the thought process of, I don't want to go on. I mean, somebody I've known since I was a child 2 or 3 years ago said to me, I've done it all. I've had everything I wanted to have. I've done everything I wanted to do. I just, I'm ready to go. I don't want to go on. And we were discussing this at the time a little bit. And I was kind of, I totally understood how she felt. She's quite a bit older than I am. She was having, some achy, painy, a lot, the stuff that happens to us. And she just was done with it. And I just said, well, you don't know what else might be on the horizon for you. So it's easy for us to think, okay, we're done. We're ready. But we don't know who we might encounter, whose life we might impact, who is still part of our purpose of being here. So you got to be a little kind of willing to just go on the float, I think, for a while. I think of it like floating. I used to love when I was young, floating down a river on an inner tube. That was just my idea.
We got to do that in Texas. It was so fun this year.
And I just feel like we always have the opportunity to make these choices, but we have to kind of be willing to imagine that, maybe we're not done yet. Maybe someone is coming toward us that needs our input, that needs our help, etc. So I think all of these things that we think about when we reach these potential exit points and we're kind of ready to take off, we still have to look at, have I finished my purpose? And we don't always know.
And many light workers are right now at a point, I hear it all the time, I'm just done. I will never reincarnate again. I don't want to be here. It's too hard. I don't, but then they hang in there because they know they volunteered to come here. They know they're here for a reason and they're desperately needed. And so you keep going. Like you keep fighting the good fight and doing what you're here to do and shining your light. That's just, I think that exit point is a gift from God that just offers the soul a release of this life path if the challenges and struggles truly are too much and you're done with what you came here to do. But it is, it's our soul's choice to take that or not. But I truly believe, like I know for myself, that not taking it not taking those opportunities definitely led to some wonderful things. I would have never met Roz. I would have never started Sedona Soul Sisters. I probably never have done my spirituality business full time. I'd still be working in mental health, which I love, but I love this more. There's a lot of things. There's so many beautiful things in my life that weren't here before I chose to stay. And so many moments, beautiful moments with my daughter, my grandsons, my family, my friends I would have missed that. I think about that a lot, and I'm glad I decided to stay, plus I'm supposed to. So here's a funny thing. So just a kind of like you can start making changes now. If you feel like you're sick of this life, what are you sick about it? What's wrong? Are you in a rut? Or is something missing from your life? Find a way to put it in, shake things up, go on a trip, make some new friends, start a new hobby, something, shake it up some. You're probably bored. And if you're in a lot of pain, do what you can, try something different for pain control. I have chronic pain. I understand this. And sometimes you got to step outside of the box to find the pain relief for what's going on for you. But, you just have to figure out what you really desire, what's going to make your life full and worthwhile. And it's up to you to put it into your life.
Yeah. And there you have it, right there. Taking your own responsibility for how you feel.
Roz, that's radical. You stop that radical talk.
Hey,
let us know. Leave a comment. If you had an exit point and didn't take it, if you took it, you can let us know a different way. But if you didn't take it, then let us know about that. Tune in next Friday. Our topic is Mu, the mythical lost continent. That's also by request. Thank you for your request out there. We love it when you ask for a topic, because we've been doing this for far longer than you even think. And it gets hard, like 7 years, I think. And it gets hard to come up with topics. So we appreciate it. In the meantime, have an enlightening week.